Hey guys, so this is the last part of section on installment buying. It's about credit cards, credit card interest, section 8.4 in the book, and basically you're gonna have to be able to calculate the interest that would be charged on a credit card. For normally it's just for 1 month. However, there's a few different ways that can be done. So you're going to have to be able to calculate the interest on a credit card a few different ways, but also a few other things. Like you're going to have to be able to find the total balance on the last day of the billing period. And up here you have a couple definitions. The interest that we're going to use is simply I equals PRT. Interest equals principal times rate times time. And anyhow, if you look at this first problem, a Visa card calculates interest using the unpaid balance method. So unpaid balance method is one of the methods that you'll have to look at to calculate the interest. The monthly interest rate is 1.3%. Again, that's monthly, so that's how much interest would be charged a month on the unpaid balance on the first day of the billing period, minus the payments and credits. Here are some of the details in the May 1st through May 31st itemized billing. So here's the May 1st unpaid balance, $13.50. A payment was made on May 8th for $250. There was purchases of $375, $57, and $65. And the last day of the billing period you see is May 31st. The payment due date is June 9th. It says find the interest due on the payment due date. So what you have to do for the unpaid balance is take that initial unpaid balance, $13.50, subtract the payment of $250, and once you get that, you have your unpaid balance. And so the interest will be calculated based on that unpaid balance. So 1.3% is going to be the monthly rate. So all you have to do is multiply the balance by the 1.3%. So again, this is the I equals PRT formula, and it is being used for a 1 month period. So in this particular context, these credit card calculating interest, time is actually in months. I know normally I've been saying time is in years, and most of these formulas time is input or calculated in years, but this is asking for a monthly total for interest. So if we have a monthly total for interest that we are trying to find, and we also have a monthly rate, then it makes sense to put a time of 1 as in 1 month. So principal times rate times time, the principal of 1100, which we calculated, the 0.013, which is the 1.3% rate, times 1 month, equals this total $14.30 of interest on that balance. So the total balance owed on the last day of the billing period is the $1,100 balance plus the $14.30 of interest plus those new purchases of $375, $57, and $65 that were indicated up here. And that will be the total balance owed on the last day. And if you add all those things up, again, previous balance plus the interest plus those 3 purchases, $1,611.30. And then you have this other idea here where a credit card requires a $10 minimum monthly payment if the total balance owed on the last day of the billing period is less than $360. Otherwise, the minimum monthly payment is 1/36 of the balance owed on the last day of the billing period, rounded to the nearest whole dollar. So what's the minimum monthly payment due by June 9th? So basically there's some rules here, like many of the different math skills and concepts you've looked at. There's rules you need to follow. So here the rule is that the person either pays a minimum payment of 1/36 of the balance, the ending balance, or $10, whichever is less, or sorry, whichever is more. So 1/36 of this balance, right, is you just divide by 36. It comes out to approximately $45 if you round to the nearest whole dollar. So the minimum payment is $45. If it would have calculated, if you divide by 36 and it comes out less than $10, then you still got to pay $10 because you see this credit card has a minimum $10 monthly payment. This next problem is the same exact thing as the previous one. It gives us all this information, but when we were finding the interest due, remember we're using it says it here, we're using the unpaid balance method. So using the unpaid balance method, we can find the unpaid balance by getting that portion of the unpaid balance and subtracting that payment of $1,000. So $4,720 minus 1,000 leaves us with $3,720. $3,720 is the unpaid balance, and the monthly rate in here you can see is 1.6%. That's 0.016 here, and then it's just times 1 month. So 3720 times 0.016. Sorry, I got a little sloppy here, but it's $59.52 of interest there. And then so the same thing as the last one, total balance due, I'm going to take the interest, add it to that balance of $37.20, and I'm going to add these purchases of $1,025 and $45 to calculate that balance owed on the last day of the billing period, $48.49.52. So the interest on, or not the interest on that, that's the ending balance, and then it's what's the minimum payment due, right? Well, same rules as the last one. Minimum payment is either 1/36 of the balance or $10, whichever's more. So if you divide the balance by 36, you find that it's approximately $135. So the minimum payment here is going to be $135, not the $10. So you got that, and then the notes segue into the different ways that credit card interest might be calculated. All methods use interest equals principal times rate times time. The methods differ on what the principal P is. So remember, this is done using principal is kind of like what the balance is, right? And that balance may be calculated any of these three ways. You already saw unpaid balance method. You take the ending balance for the month, and then you subtract the payments, and you have the unpaid balance. The previous balance method is simply, it's kind of the easiest one because it just takes that ending balance and doesn't subtract anything. And then the average daily balance method literally averages out the balance for the month. So for example, if like half the month, make an easy example. Well, kind of a basic example. If let's say a month is 30 days and for 15 days someone owes $400, and for the other 15 days they let's say they made a purchase, right? For the other 15 days they owe $600. So if half the month they owe $400 and the other half of the month they owe $600, that's an average of exactly $500 because it was exactly 15 days for each amount. But depending on the number of days that each balance is what it is, you got to use that to calculate the average. So you'll see that in these problems. It's a little bit of a pain. Either way, you have all this information here for this credit card. You have balances, rate, payments, all kinds of stuff. Let's zoom in and have a look at that. So 1.75% a month. By the way, it's credit card has a monthly rate of 1.75%. The APR is 21%. That's pretty normal for a really high rate on a credit card, and then they give us the monthly amount, the 1.75%. January 1st unpaid balance is $2,500. A payment of $1,000 was received on January 8th. There's no purchases or cash advances in this billing period. Payment date is February 9th. Find the interest due. So unpaid balance, remember, you take that balance, you subtract the payments, and that balance you get, you multiply by the monthly rate. So that $1,500 is the balance. The monthly rate of 1.75% is 0.0175, and the interest would be $26.25 based on the unpaid balance method. The previous balance method uses, the previous balance without subtracting the payments. So it just takes that previous balance of $2,500, multiplies by the rate, 1.75%. Again, we're just calculating for 1 month. That's why time is 1. And the interest for the month on using the previous balance method is a lot more. It's $43.75. So if you compare these two amounts of interest, you can see, depending on what method the credit card uses, it could cost a lot more money to the credit card owner, the consumer. And then you have the average daily balance method. So this is the one you kind of have to stop and think about. So basically it'll average out all the balances that were on the card during that month. So basically what this is here, well, you can see it's 2,500 times 7 plus 1,500 times 24 divided by 31. So it's averaging out the balance for the month. Basically what it is the balance was $2,500 for 7 days. And the reason we know that is because it tells us on January 1st it was $2,500. And then it tells us that a payment of $1,000 was received on the 8th. Okay. So for the first 7 days of the month, the balance was $2,500, but then on the 8th day, a payment was made. So once the payment is made, the balance goes down, and January has 31 days. So if the first 7 days had a balance of $2,500, and then a payment of $1,000 is made, the rest of the month is 24 days. And for 24 days, there was a balance of $1,500. So that's what all this is. $2,500 was the balance for 7 days, and then $1,000 payment is made, so the balance goes down to $1,500 for 24 days, and then you divide all that by the number of days in the month, 31, average daily balance method. Kind of a pain. Either way, multiply, and then add, then divide by 31, and you come to this average balance of $1,725.81, which makes sense because it's between $2,500 and $1,500. And then you take that as your principal. Remember, interest equals principal times rate times time. And the rate is still 0.0175. We're still just calculating for 1 month, and that interest due comes to $30.20. So you see all three methods, all three of them give you a different interest due. And depending on which one, it could cost a little more or a little less, or maybe a lot more or a lot less. This one right here is the exact same thing, so I think I'll just let it be. Try to go through it a little quicker, that is. So unpaid balance, remember, take the balance, subtract the payments, and you have your $6,300 on this one. And then your interest equals your principal times your rate times your times just 1 month for most of these, or maybe all of them. So balance times the 1.8%. If you go up, you could see the rate is 1.8%. And you have the interest is $113.40 using the unpaid balance method. Previous balance method is the $6,800 without subtracting anything, in which case the interest gets calculated up to $122.40, so more than the unpaid balance method. And then the average daily balance method, if you look, you'll find that the balance was $6,800 for 7 days, and then $6,300 for 24 days. So this one is another one that uses a month with 31 days, or wait a second. Yeah, a month with 31 days. January again. So depending on the month, these totals could vary, but this one uses the exact same stuff. It was $6,800 for 7 days. On the 8th, a payment is made for $500. So the balance goes down by $500 from $6,800 to $6,300, and the balance is $6,300 for 24 days. Divide all that by 31 to come to your average balance of $6,412.90. Makes sense because it's between those two totals, $6,300 and $6,800. Anyhow, you take that balance, $6,412.90, multiplied by the 1.8% for 1 month, and interest due is $115.43. So again, all three, whether it's the unpaid balance method, the previous balance method, or average daily balance method, right? They all give a different total for interest, and the average daily balance method is kind of the pain because just having to figure out what the balance was for how many days and then average it all out. So that one's kind of not as user friendly. Hope this helps. So thanks for checking it out.